The politics of hate, how Trump weaponized our darkest instincts. This is my op-ed today, daily take over at hartmannreport.com. And, yesterday I talked about how we have to respect free speech. It's written into the First Amendment of the Constitution. And yet the Trump administration is like stopping foreigners at our border, or even Americans. They've stopped 2 Americans and interrogating them about things that they've said or things that they've written on the internet about Donald Trump or more often actually about Israeli policy. By the way, I just got a newsletter suggesting that congresspeople are being just overwhelmed with phone calls from people who are affiliated with AIPAC, demanding that, we go along, we support Israel in this. But anyway, so yesterday I was talking about the importance of free speech. The flip side of that argument is hate speech. What do you do about hate speech? And hate is a very, very powerful thing. I mean, this is the problem. We've never had before Donald Trump, we've never had a president explicitly use hate as a primary tool to get elected and to govern. I mean, even this morning, Trump went out and did his he had some work guys there at the White House. They're putting up a bunch of flagpoles. We're looking more and more like North Korea right now. We're going to have giant flags flying over at the White House. And he dragged these guys because they had hard hats on. He thought, oh, this will look good for television, and went off. And then, referring to Democrats, he called us scum. That's hate speech. And the problem with hate, and hate as a political tool, hate as a political weapon, is the incredible damage that it can do. Hate killed a state legislator in Minneapolis this week, this past weekend. It nearly killed Paul Pelosi with a hammer. Hate showed up in Charlottesville and killed Heather Heyer. Hate stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Hate has been stalking school board meetings and statehouses across America for the past 20 years. Hate brought Senator Alex Padilla to his knees. Does anybody actually think that if Padilla had been white rather than the son of Mexican immigrants, that he would still have been dragged to the ground and handcuffed for trying to ask a question of cosplay Christie? I don't think so. I think if a white senator had stood there and asked a question, they would have been, but here we are. Hate inspired Mike Lee and Elon Musk to make fun of the family that got murdered by the MAGA terrorist. Hate blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City. Hate brought us 9/11. Hate is, fueling gun violence all across the country. So why does Trump and why do his followers, including so many elected officials and his cabinet members, why do they so vigorously embrace hate? I mean, there's actually a reason for this. And it's pretty straightforward. Hate does a whole bunch of things. Hate is intoxicating. It provides a rush of righteous anger, of adrenaline that feels empowering to people who otherwise feel powerless. In fact, hate is one of the more common responses to feeling powerless. It creates a sense of belonging among people who feel that they've been marginalized. Most dangerously, hate absolves the haters of personal responsibility because it moves blame to the hated, right? So, the problems of society are not complex. They're caused by immigrants, trans people, racial and religious minorities, for example. I mean, that's the worldview of hate. Authoritarian leaders throughout history have used hate as this unifying force. Indeed, it's the key to authoritarians seizing power in the first place. When a population is afraid or divided or economically insecure, and all three of those things are happening right now in America, hate becomes a shortcut to loyalty. Hate simplifies the world into us and them. And in doing so, it becomes a weapon of distraction that keeps working people too angry at each other to realize that they're being ripped off and exploited by the very people stoking the flames. And that's exactly what's happening in America today. At the same time that Trump and Republicans are raging about immigrants, trans kids, and university protests, and right now the Republicans are holding a hearing in the House of Representatives to investigate Joe Biden's senility. Democrats aren't even showing up. As all that is going on, in the back rooms, Republicans are shoveling trillions of dollars in tax gifts to billionaires. They're gutting environmental regulations. They're slashing funding to the Social Security Administration and health care. And they're selling off public lands to oil and mining companies. I mean, this reinvented GOP, this party of hate, wants you to look at your neighbor with suspicion so that you don't notice the billionaire who's picking your pocket. Hate stood in a press conference this week and said that she wanted to liberate Los Angeles from its duly elected mayor and governor. Hate feels powerful. It produces a sense of certainty, a sense of purpose. It gives people who feel small and angry a story that they're not just victims, they're righteous warriors. And, you know, inequality has exploded in the United States in the last 44 years, ever since Reagan dropped the top tax rate from 74% down to 25%, ever since Reagan suspended the Sherman, enforcement of the Sherman Antitrust Act. It is fuel for Donald Trump. It's his fuel. He needs it. It fills his rallies. It lights up his media posts. It drives his movement. It's intrinsic to his personality, has been throughout his life, according to his biographers. And tragically for the rest of us, the consequences of this hate are very real. You know, we're seeing black churches being burned again, Jewish people being murdered in synagogues, Asian American elders being assaulted in the streets, Hispanic families being torn apart, queer teens dying by suicide, public servants like school board members and election workers being threatened and driven from their jobs. I mean, we've been here before in America. The Ku Klux Klan used Christianity and nationalism to justify lynching. Hitler used traditional values and economic anxiety to justify genocide. In Rwanda, they called people cockroaches before the slaughter began. The pattern's always the same. Dehumanize, divide, and destroy. And it can happen again here. But hate is also fragile. Its political utility contains the seeds of its own destruction. Societies built on hatred consume themselves. I mean, we're experiencing it right now. The energy required to maintain constant vigilance against our enemies is exhausting. The paranoia that fuels hate movements creates internal fractures. Former allies become targets of hate. I mean, we saw this throughout Trump's first administration. He brought people in and then he hated them. The Cultural Revolution in China destroyed, they abandoned that because it destroyed so many lives. McCarthyism eventually collapsed under the weight of Joe McCarthy's hate. So the antidote to hate is not silence or appeasement or cowardice or cynicism. It's courage, as we saw in the No King's Day protests. It's the courage to speak out even when your voice shakes. It's the courage to stand with your neighbors, especially the most vulnerable. It's the courage to vote, to organize, to protest, to tell the truth about the haters, even when that truth is unpopular and the haters threaten you. And I can tell you that from personal experience. America's not a perfect country, but we have a long tradition of fighting back against hate. The abolitionists, the freedom riders, labor organizers, marriage equality activists, the gay rights activists. Every inch of progress this nation has seen in the last 250 years has come because people refuse to let hatred drive their world. So let's make our commitment to believing that this country is one, that we are united, not by race, religion, or ideology, but by a shared commitment to democracy, to freedom, to liberty, to justice.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.